Luke, welcome to the Deeply Aligned podcast.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, stoked to have you here, man. Stoked to have you here. We had many chats,
Yeah.
many good chats over the week. So I'm like just looking forward to yet another one. Sit down like for an hour and pick your brain.
Yeah.
But
This time under bright light.
bright light. Yeah. No, I was gonna say like, I think you heard it from me and from the rest of our friends. I mean, just the other day, Kevin was mentioning that you're just an incredible human being.
Oh, man.
And I say that in a way of like, you have been traveling the world a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have a lot of life experiences. You've done a lot, you've seen a lot, you experienced a lot. And from my point of view, it seems also like you accomplish a lot. Like from what many people would like dream of the kind of lifestyle you have. And besides that, you're also super kind, super open and transparent, and that's what like I admire with you a lot. And that's why you've become like sort of the perfect person in this podcast when it comes to like deeply aligned.
Cool.
And tying that into your whole life journey. So I figured like we could start somewhere with a little bit of context on your backstory.
Yep.
I know you've been through like, I'm thinking like Kung Fu school in China, I'm thinking starting businesses and so forth, traveling to certain places. But I don't really know myself, like the story, more than that you grew up in New Zealand and how, what was like the gap in between there of how you got abroad in the first place?
Oh, that's a good question. So I was born in England.
Yeah.
I spent the first 4 years of my life there, moved to New Zealand, and I was there until I was 22. What took me abroad? I was always fascinated with the world. Growing up, a lot of my best friends were multilingual from other countries. I had come from another country. Like for the first 7-8 years of my life, I considered myself English. I remember I cried in 1996, so I would have been 9, when I think it was like Germany beat England in the Euros or something like that. So yeah, I felt like connected somehow to another country as well. One of my oldest friends growing up, guy from Sweden, and he lived just up the road from me, and they were kind of my family as well. And so I grew up around other people speaking other languages around me. One of my best friends is from Syria. He's Syrian Lebanese and speaks Arabic, and then another one's Italian and very connected to Italy, speaking Italian. And so I always felt like this kind of, not...
You got aware of that some people in your surroundings were from other countries?
Yeah. And I was aware of the world, and my grandma, she recently passed away, but she was a bit of an inspiration for me as well. She traveled solo throughout the world. Sorry, I'm knocking this. She traveled solo throughout the world, and like up until she was 90 something, she was fascinated with ancient Egypt, ancient Greece, ancient Carthage, and told me about that. Her house, when I would go over, she would just have tons of books, and she studied, and she had all of these trinkets from around the world. So now I have some of those like ancient Egyptian pieces and coins from ancient Rome, and so I became fascinated with Egypt and Rome as a kid as well.
Piquing a kid's curiosity right there.
Right.
I feel like it's unheard of that generation.
Yeah.
Like my grandfathers didn't travel that much. Like,
Right. Like, yeah, I don't know what drove her, honestly. But so then I got to school, and languages were so fascinating to me. So I studied Latin, studied Japanese. Japanese took me to Japan when I was 15, and it blew my mind.
I remember you said,
It was just the craziest thing. It was so different from New Zealand.
Yeah.
And so I didn't ever want to go to university. I thought for me it would have been, I didn't know what I wanted to study, and so I thought, what's the point?
Let's try something different.
I wanted to go traveling as soon as I finished high school. Then my father died in my last year of high school, right at the end. I have 2 younger brothers, so I decided to stay because I didn't want to leave them alone right away. So I went to university. Like, what else was I going to do? I didn't really know what to do. Went to university, studied law, and
That's so different from who you are today.
yeah, man. Then for a little while during university, I was like, oh yeah, I can see myself as a lawyer. Like, it really, you've got all these people around you that are super pumped about becoming lawyers, doing that with their life. And so for a little while, I kind of bought into that. And then during my last 2 years, man, I started hating everything about the law.
Yeah.
Not about the law so much, but just like the environment. I remember a really pivotal moment was when I went to, it's funny remembering it. So in New Zealand, if you go to law school, at some point there'll be like a drive from the top law firms to come and like recruit people.
Right, yeah.
So for their summer clocking positions, and so I got a few of these interviews. I applied. I got a few of these interviews. Went to the wine and cheese mixers, and I went to one of them, and I asked one of the partners at one of these top law firms in New Zealand, like, you know, what's the best thing like about being a lawyer? What has really gripped you?
Yeah.
And she looked out. She took me to the window and looked out and pointed at her car. It was like a Ferrari or something like that. It was a nice car.
Right.
And she said, like, there you go. And it just crushed me.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, really? That's it?
I remember that pivotal moment in my life too.
Yeah?
It was in the finance industry, investment
Right.
banking. But it's the same thing there. A great question of asking someone who is further ahead of you,
Yeah.
could be 5 years, 10 years, 20 years ahead of you,
Yeah.
and ask like, you know, how do you like where you are right now? Because I'm about to get there eventually.
Yeah.
If I keep on this track, I will get there eventually.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
like, is
And
that
like,
good
and like
enough for you?
that's like your best case scenario.
Yeah.
You know? Become a partner in one of the top law firms in New Zealand, or become like a high up in the banking and finance industry or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, what do you have to show for it?
Really?
Well,
That's like talk about deep, alignment once again. Like
Mhm.
for anyone listening who's like younger than us, or
yeah,
then it's a lot about that question of like, what's sort of my end goal a little bit, and is that in line with what I value? Like
Yeah.
these kind of people, whether it's a lawyer or investment banker or a doctor or professional tennis player or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, is that the kind of lifestyle I want when I get to the end of the tunnel? Like,
Man, professional tennis player doesn't sound bad.
it doesn't sound bad, and that didn't sound bad to me for like 22 years also.
Yeah,
But then
yeah.
I was also, same with my brother, younger brother. Just like, it seems good on paper.
Yeah.
Earning a lot of money, you're playing at the big arenas, like all of this, seeing the
Adulation
world.
from
amazing.
the crowd.
But then you don't
competitive
understand
competition.
like what's all behind that. Like it's 10 hours of practice and focus per day. It's traveling 40 weeks out of the year from hotel to hotel.
Yeah.
And most of the time you see the tennis courts, not so much else. So it's
Right.
like understanding what the lifestyle is there, truly,
Yeah.
of a certain career path.
Yeah.
So important.
So the next day, I had my interview,
Okay.
and they asked me. I went in. I was like, I didn't prepare.
Yeah.
My heart wasn't really in it, and they asked me, where do you see yourself in 5 years? What would you like to have accomplished? And my answer was, well, I'm really into music. I would love to have written an album or two, have a like great band, play with people. I want to have traveled the world, and I would love to learn another language or maybe two. Who knows? Um, yeah, I plan to take a year off next year and go traveling, and like I was so into my answer, I was like, wow, that really does sound amazing, you know. So I didn't really notice their faces just go.
Like, that's not very related to the law.
Yeah, exactly. That was their next question or perhaps statement. It's like you didn't mention the law. You didn't mention your career. I was like,
Fair enough.
yeah. I mean, I think my answer was something like, oh yeah, that's just like taken for granted. Of course, I want to be a lawyer. I didn't want.
I
to
thought
be
you
a
meant
lawyer.
besides being a lawyer.
Yeah, exactly. So that was it for me.
Yeah.
That was like I was out. I knew I wasn't going to be a lawyer, or at least I knew that I didn't want to be. I didn't know that there was another way.
Yeah.
I knew from a very young age, though, that I didn't fit in with what I was supposed to do. I went to the most successful, I guess, academically and sport-wise school, I think, in New Zealand.
Yeah.
And if you weren't like a Rhodes Scholar, or getting into law, engineering, or medicine,
Yeah.
or if you weren't an All Black or a famous cricket player, you weren't much value to them. You're like a commodity for the school to like pump out for their statistics.
Yeah.
And I didn't fit in with the structure. I spent more time with the secretaries of the principals waiting to have a meeting about my disciplinary record than I did in class sometimes. They had some cool stories, the secretaries, cool people. Yeah. No, but and then with work as well, like I never really fit in with the like a corporate structure or much of a structure.
Yeah.
So
I relate to that.
I just I didn't know what to do. Like I was like, well, I don't want to work for these people, and I don't want to be a lawyer, which I've just trained for. So yeah, I became.
At that state of your life, it's like you at least know a few things that you don't want to go into.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
also, I think, is very related to like finding purpose or finding like your passion or interest. Like sometimes it just starts with like elimination process of like, I try this, no, not that. I try that, no.
Yeah.
Let's try this, and this maybe.
Look, and maybe I could have tried harder, but I knew I wanted to go overseas, and so my girlfriend in college. Well, I wanted to go to Chile and work in a bar and learn Spanish. I was like, yeah, man, that's like youthful exuberance. Like, I'll just go to work in a bar in a country where I don't speak the language and people will hire me. She was also studying to be a lawyer and didn't want to take a big break from law and wanted to get started in her career. So she was like, wow, no, we could go to China instead. There are like legal positions for graduates in like Hong Kong or...
Nice compromise there.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, we'll go to China. Like, that's also a crazy, like, departure from what I'm used to, and I can learn Chinese, and that will be cool. So in the end, we broke up, like, at the end of college, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go to China.
Going anyways.
Going anyway. So I took a teaching position, and I studied to teach English, and then taught English in Auckland for a little while, and then at the end of the next year, I took off for China.
Sweet.
And yeah.
Culture shock?
Huge culture shock, man. Yeah, well, for one, I didn't really know what winter was. Like,
oh, okay. I'm not familiar with the weather in New Zealand, but yeah, it's not winter ever-ish.
Yeah, like the like it'll get cold, but like you just put on a layer or so, and like you just go on your way.
Sweater, maybe a jacket, and you're fine.
Yeah, yeah, like at worst.
Mm.
And like, so I flew from Auckland summer to Beijing winter, and I had a little jump from it. I was so ill prepared. Got to Beijing, I was like, nah, man, this is crazy. It's so cold here. I can only see 20 meters ahead of me because there's fog everywhere. Like New Zealand's pretty, like the environment's pretty nice. And then so Beijing was a big shock for me. And yeah, it was. So
you land there, teaching English, and then you're like trying things out, and one of those things is Kung Fu early on?
Well, I didn't end up teaching English at all.
Okay.
I was going to. My plan was to like get a job and teach English, and I had a girlfriend at the time who came out. I had met another woman from Brazil, so like not from New Zealand. We weren't like tied to going back to New Zealand, and I think that was a big thing for me because there was never like a drastic pull back home from the person I was with.
She became an anchor there as well.
Absolutely, yeah. So, yeah, I met a guy. I was staying in a hostel in Beijing, and he said, like, he'd just been at a kung fu school for 3 months in the mountains in China, and I was like, what? Training like 40 hours a week, kung fu, like full time.
Whoa.
So I talked to my girlfriend, and she was like, yeah, we could go for 3 months. And then I was looking into it more. It's like, yeah, maybe we could go for 6 months. And then maybe we just go for a whole year. Let's just go for a year.
Damn.
And so we did. We like went down to this school in China, and I trained for a year. Fell in love with martial arts. I'd done some martial arts before, but like this was next level, like full-time training.
Yeah.
But yeah, while I was there at this school, I met a guy who was making websites for a living, and he offered to teach all of us like how to build a website and monetize it. And I was like, yep, put my hand up. I had no idea you could do anything like this. And he showed me the ropes, and I built a bunch of websites. I think I had like 80 websites at one point. Like just.
Damn, that was one of also the first exposures to like an online world.
Yeah, exactly.
Sense,
Exactly. Yeah. And from there, I knew, like, this is it. Like,
Click.
Yeah. Like, boom, light bulb. I can't go back.
Yeah.
I can never go back.
Do you remember like him sharing anything of like how much he was able to monetize the websites and stuff like that? Because that's important sometimes of like hearing. I remember for me, it's like drop shipping and stuff like that. I was like, oh wow, yeah, you're making a lot of great money on it.
Yeah.
And it's like, you don't have to trade so much time for it. Like, oh wow, like belief shifts basically of like what's possible.
That's the other thing. It wasn't just the money. It was the fact that I no longer had to directly trade time.
Yeah.
So I would put a lot of work into these sites up front, but then I could leave them.
Yeah.
And from that moment on until now, like I won't typically start something that I know I'm going to have to always put time into. As long as it can generate, I guess it's never like fully passive, but it's like, you know.
Yeah. No, I'm with you there. That was the same reason why I even got into agency services. Yeah. Also like, okay, gonna be some work in the beginning to find winning ads, etc. But once they're winning, then they can run for like months and months and months, and with a few tweaks here and there, and it's like, yeah. All good.
I'd actually love to learn more about this. I'd love to like get into more of what you do as well.
Yeah.
But so, but at the same time, it wasn't something I was passionate about. Like I was making websites, like how to speak Portuguese.com and how to improve circulation. It's like just putting a few pages about like natural ways, like eat some ginkgo biloba or whatever. So I knew I had a passion for martial arts, and I wanted to spend more time in China, learning Chinese. I was really loving life there.
Would you say like this is one of the first times you've experienced like this is a passion, or did you have that before?
No, I definitely had that before. I had it with football, soccer, for your American audience.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, I wanted to be a football player. I loved it. I played every day.
Yeah.
Then got into music in a big way. I would come home from school and just sit at my desk and with my guitar and just like try to get better at guitar, and join some bands. And I really wanted to play in bands, and I thought that would be an amazing way to live. I still do. Like I would be super happy making like, I don't know, enough to live and maybe save a little if I could just sit and play music.
Yeah.
It would be a dream, really, doing that. So those were probably my biggest passions before. But martial arts kind of like took over. And while I was at the school, there were quite a few issues. Like, I'm not sure there's a word in Chinese for customer service.
Right.
I joke, but like it was like if the internet would just be out for like a week, and they were like, yeah, we don't give a shit. Like, whatever. You're here to train. You're not here to use the internet. It's like, yeah, fair, but we are like living here and want to speak to our families. And just other things, like the food was substandard quite a lot of the time. In the middle of winter, the power would go out, and it was like negative 15 degrees inside. Like, so yeah, it was. There were a lot of things that could have been improved. So I met one of the translators at the school. He became a good friend of mine. And we just started talking like, hey man, I think we could do this, but better.
Yeah. That's the beauty about entrepreneurship, right? Like it's a seed starting of like, well, I see a lot of potential of how this could be done better.
Yeah.
Like problem solving, solutions. Yeah. Let's go.
And so, we spent a year and a half, like looking around China for viable locations for this kung fu school, and
how many kung fu schools were there in China at the time? Was there any like, let's do some market research here of like, what's the competition, or like how valuable is this idea?
That's a great question, and I have a very good answer for you. So on top of this business, the guy who taught me to build the websites, he and I had this idea where we could become an agency for people looking to go to these kung fu schools. They had like Web 0, Web 1 kind of like static, scammy looking websites. Like, hey, send us this deposit of like $300 to this bank account by wire transfer, like with like not even a link, just to like some text that you like copy and paste, like before you come to China, and then you can come to our school. It's like shit. And there was nothing like on YouTube or anything. There was no social media presence for any of these people.
You couldn't look anything up. No social proof of like.
Exactly. So we thought like, maybe there would be so many more people who would be interested in doing this if there was a kind of middleman who could
market it better, basically.
Market it better.
SEO for searching.
And like build some trust. So we contacted and physically visited every, like 97% of every school in China that would actually accept foreign students.
Gotcha.
So we went around to all of them, visited all of them, sat down with them, got like and kind of like an agency agreement
That's definitely market research right there.
Yeah. So we saw all of them, and then yeah, that agency didn't end up working because our business model was terrible. Like, we didn't automate anything. It would be like people calling us, and then us calling the schools, and then talking to the people again, and just like going back and forth, like
Right.
trying to meet people's needs.
Yeah.
So it was just too much time put into it. But yeah, we eventually started this Kung Fu school. It was me, my ex partner, the girlfriend, and the guy who taught me how to build the websites in the first place,
Gotcha.
and the guy, the translator, friend, and
So 4 people basically.
and 5, a main investor.
All right.
And yeah, we ran the school for a few years, and like it was to this day like kind of like the best and worst thing I ever did in my life.
Yeah.
It was
I remember you telling me.
so much purpose. Like, I put everything into it, and I loved it, and it meant everything to me.
Yeah. We've been talking about this before, where the main issue was a lot of management with team,
Yeah.
and everyone not maybe having the same passion and purpose as you did, or
Yeah. Yeah. Well, how to put
hard to
this?
summarize, maybe.
So like, everyone did their bit, but it was very hard, I guess, at the end of the day, for me, to, I guess, adapt to Chinese business culture. I'm not saying it's like the wrong way of doing things. It was just maybe a bit too difficult for me. Like, like, hey, can you do this? Yes, when really it means no. But I don't want to tell you that right now. Like, and so
communication gaps.
yeah, there were definitely communication gaps, and yeah, so we had it was the school's very strict. We had people coming. There was like no smoking, no drinking, definitely no drugs. It was like a serious place to improve your martial arts and I guess improve your life as well. Yeah. So, but the investor had friends, and they would come and like take a room and like drink sometimes and like be smoking like there. It's like, man, it's like this is not congruent with what we're trying to achieve. And while I was there, like, we got everything working really well. I think we were the top result on Google for like learn Kung Fu in China, learn martial arts in China. And it was beautiful. We had a great school with great people, incredible teachers. I wasn't a teacher. I was just like, helping to run it. And but it just became a bit too much. Like, I got super burnt out. I felt like every little problem like went through me. And I knew how I wanted it to be solved, and then there were just times when it just couldn't be solved, and it got pretty frustrating at one point. So I needed a break, and I went to Thailand just to like chill out, and I stayed there for 10 months. And during that time, the communication with the partners in China, it just got worse and worse, and like all of the operating procedures that we had written and all the training we'd given, it seemed like it was slipping back into
just slowly falling apart.
Yeah, and I wasn't there to oversee it. I was relying on my partners to do that, and it didn't seem like that was happening, and I didn't want to put myself back in that position again. So in the end, I just said, you know what, guys, I'm walking away from this. It was very hard to do, though.
Can you imagine, after putting in yeah, so much of your passion into it.
Yeah.
But it reminds me of, I think we talked about this before, like whether it's life or business, because now these days I see it as the same when done right.
Yeah.
But like, if you have purpose, which you had, and growth, you guys were growing and learning and becoming better teachers, everything. But then when you don't have the last piece, like autonomy, that's also like not good enough. It's like, yes, you want a business that you love or a life that you love, but you also want like freedom to sometimes be able to step away from it and feel like it's still gonna run well, and then I can come back to it, and you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Like that was the main thing. I felt trapped.
Yeah.
I felt trapped in China. It was like in a little village, and like I think there was like one nice cafe, and I think there was a Pizza Hut. So like in the like nearby city that would take an hour and a half to get to, and so like I stopped getting what I needed out of it, and I felt trapped. So I was like, you know, I can have all of the passion and purpose in the world, but if I don't have the freedom, autonomy, as you said, then it's not worth it. Yeah. In the end,
it's gonna take more energy than it's giving eventually.
It did.
It's a very common thing.
It did. Like I think the first and hopefully last time in my life, like I felt myself like going a little bit crazy, you know, like things just didn't work, and sometimes I totally disagreed with other decisions, and I just like felt this like anger rising up inside me, and it felt like you know how people say they're like possessed by demons, you know, like I felt like something else was inside me, like pushing up, bubbling up to my surface, to the surface, and it, like, I just felt myself, I don't know, just getting so frustrated and angry. It's like, this isn't me though, you know, like, I like practice martial arts. I do a lot of qigong, and it's like I'm a pretty zen dude.
Yeah, I would say you're pretty zen.
And like I was before, and then I had that moment. I was like, man, no. So I had to leave. Like, I had to give up the thing I love to save myself, I guess, in a way.
I think this is what many people feel who's like, I guess entrepreneurs who's leaving the 9 to 5. It's a very similar thing where you're an employee somewhere, and then you see opportunities for how to improve things. But then your boss says, no, that's not how we do it here.
Right.
We've done it like this always. And so it doesn't matter what you think can be improved in a different way. Yeah. Like that's when people like, oh no, I'm trapped in a cage with a structure that I don't really want to follow. Yeah. And that's what can happen with a business too. Like,
yeah, even when you're the boss.
Yeah, you just created your own cage.
You're still like there are
people dreaming about
create your own cage.
Starting a restaurant or cafe, and it sounds so good, but then when they can't find another person to
sometimes you've bought yourself a job.
Yeah, basically. Right.
Yeah.
All right, and after this, then that's your, I guess, first experience of like your own business truly, and that's a bit hybrid, I guess, between like offline and online. Yeah,
so like the online part was like we did all the marketing for it. Like we did kind of like everything. Like train the staff, create curriculums.
Fall on all the pieces of what makes a business successful.
Yeah, but it was definitely like, definitely a brick and mortar business. Like that school had to be in that one place. And so like to manage it, I had to be in that one place. Like I thought I could do it from abroad, and just do the marketing for it, but it required a much heavier like involvement on site, and became impossible. And that was the moment that like kind of broke me. Like I, from that point on, like I remembered what I'd thought about when I got showed the websites. Like only put your time and effort into things that you can walk away from. Like, and I'd forgotten that lesson, that to follow a passion instead. You know, it's like, do something you love and you'll never work a day in your life. Bullshit.
Yeah, that one can be expanded upon for sure.
Yeah. So from then, I'd heard about this thing called Amazon, and in Thailand, I got together a group of people. I had like $150 in my bank account. Right. I was like, you know what? I want to start an Amazon product, and I just jumped online and I put a post out. I was living in Chiang Mai at the time. I had no idea what the word digital nomad was or anything like that. So, but I found this group, like Chiang Mai Digital Nomads or something. I put a post like, hey, who wants to start an Amazon product? Like, we can all do it together and just learn and like pool our resources.
Well, that's a good idea. And this is 2000 what?
Well, 2015?
Yeah.
Maybe?
Okay.
Yeah, I think 2015. So, yeah, and I got a great response, like 10, 11 people were like, hey, yeah, I'll do this. We had one guy who was making like $30,000 a month on Amazon, and he wanted to join the group just because he wanted to meet some people who were like-minded and like have some social interaction. And then one of the guys in the group knew like an Amazon guru. I don't know if that's the right word. This guy was a lovely guy. I think he lived in Tennessee or something like that, Kentucky. A guy called Rob Fortney, who sadly passed away a few years ago. He was in Thailand in a motorcycle accident. Shout out, Rob. And he came over to just join us because he was like, yeah, I'm not doing anything here. And he flew over from the States and joined our little group. And I just shared. He was also killing it on Amazon. So we had like these two amazing people, and we just went through like product after product after product. Like, will this do? Why won't it work? And we just analyzed
like all 10 of you basically.
All 10 of us just meeting up like all the time, and we found a product that worked, and we did it, and it worked. Like it was profitable. It was like, holy shit, this is cool.
That's really.
And then it was just selling, and I wasn't doing anything. I was like, okay. This could be something.
Yeah, for sure.
And so yeah.
That kept on running for a while, or you guys?
Yeah. I mean, like it was making each of us like very little money because it's split between 11, 12 people. But like, cool. But it was more for the learning. Yeah. And so then I, with my ex, we went to Australia. Still had like no money at all. Like went to Australia, started working, and there was a really nice kick in the ass for one, because like I got back into a job to make money to put into this business, and I could just like feel myself aging for the first time in a long time. I could feel my body like disintegrating slowly every morning. I'd get up to go to work, and I knew I just had to do it. Yeah. You know, like
have to make this work.
Had to make this work because I could see myself like 10 years down the line if it didn't work. And I'm like, what am I doing? Still living in Sydney, going to a job, and like I loved the job as well. I did a couple of different jobs. Like I got this like certification to work on buildings, to like hang off ropes and like fix buildings. Okay. So I was in Sydney like working on these like huge tall buildings. Like
high up in the air, you mean?
Yeah, like I think the biggest one was like 175 meters, like just hanging off the side of the building.
Damn.
But yeah.
Not afraid of heights?
No. Super afraid of heights. Like I'm terrified of heights. But that's
techniques. Don't look down, look forward.
that's what made me kind of want to do it. I was like, it was a bit of a challenge because I was like, I don't know what kind of job I want to do, but I want it to be like fun. But then I went up to the Gold Coast, went to a theme park like Dream World or something, and it had the world's like tallest just vertical drop ride. And I got to the top, and then it dropped me, and my whole body clenched up. And I was like, no, that's the worst way to die, man. Like, No way. So I got back to Sydney. I was like, sorry guys, I'm not coming in anymore.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that.
I'm going into Amazon FBA now.
Yeah, I mean, like that was the plan anyway. But like,
How long did it take you to
get started?
get some kind of success there?
I'd say 6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got, I don't know, lucky, or I'd already analyzed thousands of products at that point. I knew what could create a successful product. I'd been taught by amazing people, and then that it took from inceptions of the product to like getting it finalized and then hitting it. Yeah, about 6 months. I think we did like 10 sales on day one with no reviews or anything. It's like, okay, this is going to be good.
Potential.
Yeah. And then just released more products and more products. But yeah.
So walk me through that. So yeah, you see the success there of 10 sales, and then next day, a week, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Good sale.
Yeah.
And you go like,
and then you get
oh,
reviews.
this can be like a
it's
monthly income of.
Yeah.
What was the levels?
Yeah. I don't know. At one point, like, I should preface this by saying, like, I always viewed this as like a lifestyle business.
Yeah.
Like, I never wanted to be in this full time working for it.
That's a good preference. Yeah.
So, I think we launched that year like five products, and by the time I left Sydney, like from starting to 6 months later, I think we got up to like maybe like 30,000 a month in sales or something.
That's good stuff. That's probably like 10 grand in profit or something like that?
Yeah.
Maybe a little less?
No, I think it was more at the time. It was probably about like 40, very low 40s in margin.
I mean, that was my aim also in the beginning, like drop shipping. I tried a few, like failed. Oh, made some money, failed, break even.
Yeah.
Boom, Christmas, $1,000 per day in sales.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, after this month, made like 12 grand.
Yeah.
Like, Jesus, if you can continue like this, I'm set for life, basically. Like the aim was just like, can I make 2-3 grand a month?
Yeah.
Because that will sustain my living. Of like,
Yep.
and then I can sit and do guitar or whatever I want, like all day. Like
exactly. So like once the products were up, like an hour a month, maybe, or 2 hours, 3 hours. Like if you had more customer complaints. Which were my favorite. They became 5-star reviews, every complaint. Like, it's just overwhelming.
Yeah, lifestyle business. I vibe with that.
Yeah. But then the lifestyle gets in the way, as well. Like you can really take your eye off the ball. And so I started this business with my now ex. And it can be hard to run a business with your ex.
That's another lesson,
Yeah, definitely a lesson. So yeah, like, and your business. I think it's definitely good to start a business. Like you can piggyback off these marketplaces, for example, leverage them. But at the end of the day, it's kind of not your business as well. Yeah. Like I remember when COVID hit, and my like best-selling product, which was probably responsible for 60% of our revenue, it got absolutely tanked because Amazon classified it as a non-essential product when all of my competitors were like 1-day shipping, 2-day shipping, prime shipping, and mine was like 30-day shipping. No. The only people ordering that was probably a mistake on their part. So yeah, good. That's another. It's like good
with
lesson. A lot of lessons.
Technology. I mean, Google Slap and all of these kind of platforms and technology and trends are changing, right? It can change very quickly, and then all of a sudden, you don't really have much besides the skills and experiences you acquired in the first place. Like.
Exactly. So like, and because I wasn't like. we were working to like maintain rather than grow, and it's like the old saying, like if you're maintaining, you're really going backwards.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like I don't know. Be very careful who you get into business with, and like what your goals are for it as well, because at the end of the day, it can be amazing, or it can be you can like dig yourself your own hole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's. I'm thinking tie it more to like alignment and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Would you say? We talked about this before. Like one can be conscious and unconscious about like the decision one is making and how that is aligned with the goals one has in the future, and how much one has been reflecting upon those. At that point of time, would you say that you were conscious about, I have this goal in mind, like in 5 years, the lawyer question, in 5 years I would like to be here and living this kind of lifestyle. Did you have anything like that in the back of your mind?
At what point?
At this point when you just started finding some success on Amazon FBA with your ex there, and
no, not really. There was, I wasn't really. I think I just thought in my mind, yeah, we'll go traveling for a little bit, and then we'll maybe like settle down and then put out more stuff, and then go traveling for a bit and put out more stuff, and it would just keep rolling on. Yeah. Unfortunately, for that purpose, we broke up in like I don't know a few months after we started traveling again. Gotcha. So, and then I just kept just traveling. I was just on the move the whole time, and so we weren't really putting out more products, and we weren't building.
But you had an income stream that was like.
But it was still like just taking
sufficing your traveling expenses.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So in that case, you were like.
I wasn't really looking too far ahead, though. I was just like enjoying my life. Yeah. Yeah.
You were cruising.
I was absolutely cruising. Yeah, for sure. Just loving life. So there was nothing really, no big plans. Yeah. Yeah. I the last time I had really big plans for something was with the Kung Fu school. I was like, we're gonna build this into a big community, and like it's gonna last forever, and it's gonna be like this, it's gonna be like that. And I think something I learned from that was just you can have all the plans you want, but it doesn't mean they're definitely going to happen exactly the way you envision. Yeah. And it was the same with Amazon as well. It's like had all these big plans. Well, like not all these big plans, but like the plans that I had and I foresaw, like were a little bit derailed from breaking up with my partner.
Yeah, that can be derailing, definitely.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, yeah. Where would you say you're like going next now? Like, you have some more traveling plans now, of course.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a little bit hard to say. Like we've spoken about this. Like, what was it you said? You said something amazing that like that hit me yesterday. Yeah. Like you can. Life is all about change. Yeah. And everyone is going to change. The world is going to change around you as well. But it's about trying to change intentionally. Yeah, intentionally knowing or deciding what you'd like to change into, right? Exactly. And I think, in 2020, my I mentioned before, but my grandma died, right? Yeah. And there's a big moment in my life where she was here and then she wasn't, and before that I had this just joyful, like anything was fine, and like life is easy and flows. And then after that, like I saw her house just get demolished. Well, it has been demolished now, but like everything was cleared out of her house.
In a very short amount of time.
Very short
I think
amount
you
of
said,
time.
yeah.
Like I went home, and I was there for 1 month. Flew home during COVID for her funeral. She died for me unexpectedly. I didn't expect it to happen like that.
Yeah.
And then just seeing someone's entire what they had
Existence, basically. Yeah.
just gutted, and
Yeah.
it was like soul destroying for me. I left my family. I should have stayed in New Zealand and processed more, but I left, and I went to Hawaii, and I was just I sunk into a depression for the first time in my life, and I just didn't want to get off the couch. What am I doing here? I should be with my friends and family back home. And and that lasted for quite a long time, like a couple of years, I would say. And so that intentional change, like who or what you want to change into, that like left me completely. And I was just, I didn't have drive for anything. Like the only thing I could really bring myself to do was the gym, like at least get some exercise every day.
Yeah.
And that probably kept me like a lot healthier mentally than I otherwise would have been. But that purpose left me, and so it's just kind of floating through life a bit more for quite a long time. And so, I'm coming back to myself now.
Yeah.
I'm excited for things again, but the purpose, like that, what do I want to change into? How do I want to intentionally work on myself? That's a question I'm really just starting to ask myself again. So
now you're ready to ask yourself that again, basically.
I'm ready for that again. That's right. And I wasn't ready for that for a long time. So, like, it's been so nice meeting you because you're all about that.
I am all about that. Yeah, I love it.
This is all about that, you know. And so, being around people like you, and you specifically, is it's inspiring. It makes me want to find that purpose again. And I don't know if that purpose is build another business that gives me time again. Like, time is a wonderful thing to have, but the more time you have, if you're not using it properly, you're wasting it. And so you may as well, you could be doing anything with it. Like,
totally.
Like, if I'm just floating through the day with no drive, like, don't want to get off the couch because I'm depressed, like, that's not useful time.
It's not. I feel like this has been on my mind lately, like kind of law of attraction. It's like the theme of my last week. My mentor was saying, like, time management, yes, important. Time is a valuable resource because it's limited.
Yeah.
But more than that, think about time as in, hey, this is the limited span of time. In here now, you can decide how do you manage your energy.
Yeah.
Like you said there, you can be two different people, let's say both are living for 100 years, so same amount of time, but then one is depressed or low on energy or not having a lot of friends or not exercising or not the best frequency or energy, while the other one is thriving on life, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's such an interesting concept of like
and
energy.
Those two people can be you.
Yeah, really. At different phases in life.
Yeah.
For sure.
Like if you met me in 2021, I'd be like, if you met me in 2017, I'd be like, we're taking over the world.
Yeah.
You know? I'm definitely more. I enjoy myself obviously a lot more when I'm in that, like, hey, I have something to like strive towards.
Yeah.
But I'm now very careful about what I'm choosing to strive towards.
Yeah. As one should. And yeah, I mean, What was I gonna say? I was gonna say there's an upside with the dark side, with the with being depressed and so forth. Like, I had a time where, if someone said they were depressed, I would not be able to relate whatsoever. I would go like, depressed? How is that even possible? Like, going into the wall and losing your energy and not getting up of bed, or like, so that can't happen to me. But then it happened.
Yeah.
For a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And now I have those colors of like, oh yeah, I know what that's like. And it's not easy at all. It's so hard to get out of that spiral.
Yeah.
And I think back to like me, Kevin yesterday, and many other people saying, you're an incredible human being. They are saying that because you had these experiences now. You've been traveling the world, but you also had the tougher moments. Grandma passing away, father passing away, etc., that has made you now, just very compassionate and like all of those kind of qualities, right? Which is admirable and inspiring to me. So it's ironic in that way of like tougher moments in life is also making us grow emotionally and maturely.
Oh, dude, seek the tough moments out as well. Like, if your life is like on autopilot and it's easy, then you're missing out.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how, man. That could be another podcast in itself. But like
episode 2 in the future.
but for example, with traveling, right? So a lot of people want to travel and they want to be digital nomads and like have that freedom. And then it's like you have to ask yourself, for what purpose? Like, why do you want to travel? Why do you want that freedom? And what are you going to do with that freedom? So I found myself a lot of the time when I'm traveling going from country A to country B to country C to D and sitting in the same cafe, eating the same avocado toast, drinking the same cappuccino, doing the same thing. And like, am I traveling? Because it feels the same.
Yeah.
Like the places we go, the places people congregate, like they're looking for community, and that's awesome because it does get very lonely traveling.
Yeah.
If you're meeting people like transiently all the time, and these kind of like digital nomad communities that have popped up around the world, they really help with that feeling of loneliness and connection. But sometimes, dude, get out there and like go and stretch your life as much as you can. Like
exactly, like
the
stretch your consciousness and explore things and But yeah, going back to the purpose kind of part, we talked about this too, where from my perspective, at least what I'm like reflecting upon myself, is part of finding purpose is just trying to become really self-aware of like, who am I truly, and then being able put myself in an environment where I can be myself truly among other people, and in that way find the right community. Find a community where I'm allowed to be myself. And obviously a key ingredient is to know what I value myself also.
Right.
But once someone is doing that, then I think it's a big part of the purpose kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know how much you got into this, but I was into the rabbit hole of like, what's the meaning of life? How does the universe operate? And like our collective consciousness, Big Bang, could that be just like consciousness was born in a trillions of billions of pieces and we're just one piece of it in my soul and one in your soul? And it was asking itself like, who am I and what can I become? And that I think we're all kind of doing.
Yeah.
We're asking like, who am I? What can I become? And we're going on this journey of like trying to learn, and then we integrate, and then we come back to the collective consciousness.
I love that quote, and I'm gonna butcher the quote, but it's, scientists are just atoms trying to figure out themselves.
That is. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Yeah. We're all is, at the end of the day, just a big collection of atoms, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But like purpose. I think yeah, you can find it through doing difficult things as well. Like test your limits, do something you didn't think is possible, and then you're gonna discover you are much more capable and resilient than you think you are.
Yeah.
And through that you'll find new interests and think, hey, if I can do this, then well, maybe not I can do anything, but at least I can do this. And this seems amazing, and I didn't think I would be able to do this before.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So I agree. I used to be so much in the rut when I was younger. I mean, it's not too long ago, maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago.
Yeah.
I was like, no, everything has to be, of course it makes sense, it's valuable to have a plan.
Mm-hmm.
And it is valuable. But for some people, they could be the opposite of like, no, I'm not going with a plan, I'm just going without a plan, and I'm just going to explore, and then that's going to lead me to the next thing.
Yeah.
And now I'm way more about that, of like, yeah, if everyone starts out at the same place, and there was like, you want to take that path or that path? Doesn't really matter actually, because there will be points along the way, kind of like a flywheel.
If you stay open.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the next thing is going to lead you to the next thing. And along the way, it's good to be aware of what you think about that thing and reflect upon it, and how it's like, I guess, in alignment with who you are and what you're seeking.
What was the I'm sorry if this has been asked on your podcast before and it's just regurgitated information, but
Go for it.
like what was the big moment for you where you're like, hold on, no, I'm changing everything. Like no one ends up in a podcast studio in Bali without that moment, right?
No, I guess not. Oh, I mean, yeah, I'm always thinking through my pivotal moments in life, but my first YouTube video is sort of about this. I'm saying, for as long as I can remember, I felt lost and like an outcast. I felt different, because I think even when I was like 6, 7 years old or something, like for as long as I can remember, I was always wondering about deeper questions. And then I realized along the way that, oh, my classmates are not thinking about these kind of questions. Like, kind of weird that I am. Like, you know, they're thinking about like, let's go for the next recess or next class break and play some soccer or whatever, which I did as well, of course. But I was also thinking about like why am I in school? What am I trying to learn? What's the meaning of life? Like, what's, you know, like, how are things working? Trying to understand and ask questions and curious. So that's always been with me. And then, yeah, tennis career, of course, big focus on my life. Identity crisis when I was like 23, 24, when I was done with tennis and graduated in my finance bachelor.
That was in the States, right?
That was in the States. And also very similar to you, like with the lawyer story, of like looking ahead of, okay, all of these people that I'm in the same shoe is like 10 years from now. Yeah, they're all making a shit ton of money, but they don't have the freedom to travel the world much. They all work minimum 40-hour work weeks, if not like 60+ hour work weeks. And
no one I know works like 40 hours a week.
This feeling like this can't be it.
Yeah.
This can't be it. So, identity crisis, looking for answers. Started reading 1 book per week for the next 5 years, by the way.
That is cool.
I've been reading a lot of books, and one of the first couple of ones that really shifted me, I think, which pivotal moment for real. 4-Hour Work Week, Tim Ferriss, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, Think and Grow Rich, Growth Mindset, Carol Dweck. These kind of books, right? A lot of self-development, but like, oh yeah, entrepreneurship seems to be the way. And even though if I don't know all the answers to what I'm looking for in the future of my life, the vehicle seems to be entrepreneurship, and maybe specifically also online, since that will be location independence,
Yeah.
and maybe even time freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Like, went on the agency path, struggled a lot with like drop shipping and paid ads and a few agency clients in that niche, e-com brands. Found some success, but I was still like, I held on to like, 9-to-5 jobs, internships, management consulting, did a master's degree.
Wow.
3 semesters in, I only had the master thesis left. And that's when I decided, no, I'm dropping out. And then I had my family and friends around me calling me an idiot. And like,
It's so brave, man.
yeah.
Like, I had a guy at law school who, so in New Zealand, it's, I think fairly easy to get into the first year of law school. Like there were, I don't know, around like 500 people
Yeah.
in my university and law school. But to get into the second year, you have to get like an A in your like law paper or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's a big deal to get into second year.
Yeah.
Because like you're finally in. You're like, now I'm in law school. Okay.
It becomes such high sunk costs, so it's ridiculous. Almost. Like also like 17 and a half years in school and
Yeah.
GMAT tests and
Yeah.
internships, and like now I'm here in the room that I wanted to be in.
Yeah.
But then realizing it's the wrong room.
Yeah.
Like, what now?
This guy as well, though, he like went through second year of law school with us. So he was in and he'd like committed.
Yeah.
At the end of second year, he was like, no.
Yeah.
He dropped out and did a teaching degree. And at the time, all of us were like, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing, man? Like, you made it. Like, you're with us. Like, we're going to get to the top.
What top?
yeah, exactly. And like, I've always really admired him.
Yeah.
Because he believed in himself and what he wanted, and he found like his purpose,
Yeah.
and I don't know, just like when the whole world was telling him he was wrong, he knew he was right, and he trusted himself. Man,
that's respect, yeah. And yeah, it's one of the things I'm really proud of myself for, where like, and probably one of the reasons, this podcast in general, like deeply alignment, but like thinking back of like, I would be the biggest advocate, and I'm passionate about it, of like, try to figure out what you want and what you value, and have the courage to go with that path, no matter what anyone says.
Yeah.
Like, geez, like you're gonna thank yourself in the future. Like,
yeah. And like maybe it won't always work out, like, and maybe you'll have to start again. Like I've had to do that many times.
Yeah.
And honestly, I wouldn't
have it any other way.
Yeah, but also I wouldn't even know how to have it another way now.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about this the other day, like with
getting close to the finish line. But
close to the finish, yeah. I was talking to you about it in relation to actors. Like, no one gets into acting to make it big, or maybe they want to, but like, what are the chances of it? Like, they start acting because they love it, and they just keep doing it. It's like, if you could do anything else, you would probably do something else rather than acting, but like, they just have to do it. It's like a compulsion.
Yeah.
And I have always felt like that. Like, since I was super young, since my like first job, I was like, this isn't right. I can't do this.
Yeah.
Like, if I do this, I'm like destroying myself. And so even if I fail doing what I'm doing now, like, I can't, I have to try again, because I can't do anything else.
I relate to that so much. And yeah, I'm passionate about it, of like, what makes, because everyone is probably feeling that, but it's like, how much can I feel into the intuition and like interpret it, in a way. And like, Yeah, I think also one of the best exercises I learned early on, which I always talk about also, is like the deathbed exercise. Imagine you're on your deathbed whenever you're 9 years old or something like that.
Yeah.
Thinking back upon your life, what would you want life to look like? What's the memories you would want? What's the decision you wanted? Like, and what are the regrets that you don't, want to make a reality now? Like, it's like whatever goal you have, and we can think about life in general, like at the end, it's always good to think backwards, like reverse engineer in a
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
It's so valuable.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I know that I'm living a life right now that it's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool. It's
and,
pretty cool.
And I look back on like my time as an adult, and it's been amazing. And it wouldn't have been nearly as amazing if I hadn't have just like taken the plunge and tried to go for it. Yeah. And for you as well, I'm sure, right?
It's a good one. It's a good one, for sure. Grateful, definitely.
Absolutely. Very lucky to have met the people I met along the way. And All right.
Let's wrap up, Luke.
Including you.
Man, appreciate you a lot, really. And thanks for being here.
Likewise.
Good session.